All right, so in this video, I'm going to teach you guys how to place fractions onto a number line. So it sounds like it might be a little complicated, but it's actually really easy, just as long as you get down the skill of cutting up a fraction line properly. All right, and so I'm going to show you how to do that. So in this case, and in most of the cases where you have to place fractions, you are going to have a blank fraction line and then several fractions to put onto that line. In this case, we have 2 sixths and 5 sixths. So we have 0 to 1. You always want to make sure you pay attention to what your number line is starting with and ending with so that you cut it up right. So we are looking at 1, 0, and 1. This is our whole, okay? So if this is our whole, we need to cut this number line up into 6 parts in order to place these fractions correctly. Now, a lot of people make the mistake of placing or drawing 6 lines in order to get 6 parts, but that actually doesn't work, because if you watch me draw 6 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, look at how many parts you end up with. Okay, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You actually end up with 7 parts. So you want to make sure you do not place you don't want to look at the denominator to figure out how many lines to place. The denominator tells you how many chunks of the fraction bar you want. So in order to spread it out evenly, you actually want to draw 5 lines. So if the denominator is 6, that means you're drawing 5 lines on your fraction bar. And it may even be helpful for you to write that when you look at the denominator. Always subtract 1, and that's how many lines you're going to end up drawing. So we want 6 sections. The great thing about having an even denominator is that means you can just start by cutting your line in half. Okay, because it's even, we're going to have 3 parts on this side, 3 parts on this side, because we want 6 altogether. So that makes it really easy. I always love having even denominators. Makes it cutting the fraction bar up really simple. So if we need 3 parts on this side, we need to draw 2 more lines. So now we have 1, 2, 3 parts, and the same thing on this side. So now we have a fraction bar that's not perfect. Okay, you can see some of my sections are a little bit, maybe a centimeter or 2 off, but in general, they pretty much look equal. So we have 1 section here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so now our fraction bar is cut evenly, and that's the hardest part. So once you get past that, placing your fraction should be pretty simple. So now we have 2 sixths we need to place. So all we need to do is find our 2 parts and place our fraction there. So this would be, and you can even, if you really want to, you can just go ahead and label all of them. This is 1 sixth, this is 2 sixths, 3 sixths, 4 sixths, and 5 sixths. And then you can just, circle the ones you're going to place. So we wanted 2 sixths, I'm going to circle 2 sixths, and we needed to place 5 sixths, so I'm going to place 5 sixths. And then you can just erase the other labels, and then you're left with just your 2 fractions that you were asked to place. All right, so that is one example. And then I'm going to go ahead and show you another example. The difference here, as you may see, is that the fractions we're asked to place, one is a regular proper fraction, the other one is a mixed number. Okay, and don't let that confuse you, don't let that get you scared. It's no big deal. Notice that our number line goes from 0 to 2. So now we're working with a number line that's a number line that's just a little bit larger, but it's really no different. So the first thing I do whenever I have a 0 and a 2 on my number line is I go ahead and mark half as 1. Okay, so I'll write it on the bottom actually, so it looks the same. This is 1. So now we have a number line cut up in, this is 1 and this is 2. All right, first step, super simple, no problem. So now we need to look at what the fractions are that we need to place. I can see that 3/4 here has a denominator of 4, and 1 1/4 has a denominator of 4. So each of these sections now needs to be split up into 4 pieces, because the only way we're going to be able to figure out where 3/4 belongs is if we split it up into 4, and then the same thing here. 1 and 1/4 needs to be split up into 4. So let's split each of these sections into 4. Again, we're working with an even number, so it's easy. Let's just look at this one section for right now. Let's just zoom in on this one part. Okay, we want to split this up into 4, so that means we're drawing 3 lines. So 1 right down the middle, 2, 3. So now we have 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. Okay. Now let's look at the second half. You need to just break it up for yourself, it makes it a lot easier than looking at the whole number line at once. It could be kind of overwhelming. So let's just break this up again. Half. That's 1, 2, 3. Now we have 4 sections, right? We broke it up into 4ths. So now since we're moving from 1 onwards, we're not going to just call it 1/4 because it's not 1/4. It's 1 and 1/4. And this will be 2 and 1/4. I'm sorry. No, it won't. This will be 1 and 2/4. And this will be 1 and 3/4. Okay, so now if we zoom back out, we look at our number line again. Now it's all filled in, and all we have to do is circle the fractions that we needed to place. So we needed to place 3/4, and we needed to place 1 and 1/4. All right, so then we're just going to erase the rest of the fractions that we wrote on our fraction bar. Doing all of those fractions just really helps you be accurate, but since the problem's only asking for 2 fractions, that's all we want to have on our number line in the end. So again, 3/4 is right here, and 1 and 1/4 is right here. Make sure that your tick lines on your fraction, or your number line are very clear so that you can see exactly where they belong. All right, so that is how you do that. So now let's do a little bit of practice. Okay, so let's practice with, let's just look at one at a time. So I'm going to cover up the other ones so we don't get too overwhelmed. And this is a great tip even just in class when you're working on worksheets or anything. If it just seems very overwhelming, I still do it to this day. I'll cover up parts of something so I can just focus on one thing at a time. All right, so we need to place 1/3 and 2/3. We're looking at where our number line begins, 0, and this is supposed to be 1. Okay, so it goes from 0 to 1, and we need to place 1/3 and 2/3. So we need to split this number line up into thirds, which means how many lines are we drawing? 2. Only 2 lines. So 1, 2, that looks pretty even, so that's good. We have 1/3 here, 2/3 here, because 1 is also another word for, another number for 3/3. So 0, 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. These 2 fractions both were asked to be placed. So that answers our question right there. Perfect. Okay, that one was pretty simple. Let's move on to the next one. All right, so we need to place 2/5 and 4/5. Again, we're going from 0 to 1. So if 5 is our denominator, we need to actually be drawing 4 lines. And now we're working with an odd number, which means we can't just mark the middle anymore. We actually have to, well, honestly, what I do is I do mark the middle, but then I use that as a guide to where my middle section should be. And then I just split up the rest. We have 4 lines altogether, but 5 sections, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 altogether. So now we can look for the markings for the fractions that we need to place. So 2/5 is going to be, this is 1/5, so this is 2/5. And then this is 3/5, so this is going to be 4/5. So these are the 2 fractions that we needed to place right where they need to go, okay? All right, so we're going to switch it up for the next one just a little bit. And 2 is going to be our ending spot. So we're going to go from 0 to 2 again, just like we did in the practice earlier. All right, so we need to place 1 and 1/2. Oh, this is pretty simple. So remember, when we're going from 0 to 2, I always like to place 1 first. 1 is right in the middle. It's an easy place to start. And we're lucky here, one of the numbers we're placing is 1. So that's one that we can circle as one of our answers. And then the other one is 1 and 1/2. So if it's 1 and 1/2, we need to make sure we're placing it between 1 and 2. And it's actually going to be right that center mark, right? Because 1 and 1/2 is going to be directly in the middle of 1 and 2. All right, so that is that one. Pretty simple. Don't be intimidated by the 0 to 2 number lines. They're just as easy. They just take maybe a hint of a bit longer to do. All right, so then let's look at this last one. Here we have 3 fractions to place, and our end mark is going to be 2. So 0 to 2 again. First step when we have 0 to 2, I always mark 1 in the middle. Okay. So now we're looking at what we need to place. We need to place 1/4, 1/2, and 1 and 1/4. So I know that I need to cut my fraction or my number line up into fourths. So that's where I'm going to start. All right. So again, we're going to just zoom in on one side at a time. Right? And let's cut this into fourths. You can cut it right in the middle and then out 2 times. So 3 lines, but 4 sections. This will be 1/4, this is 2/4, and this is 3/4. And now let's look at the second side of our number line. Same thing, cut it into fourths, but here we have 1 and 1/4, 1 and 2/4, 1 and 3/4, and then 2. So it works out perfectly. So now our number line is complete with fractional markings every quarter, so cut into 4s. All right, so go back to what fractions we need to place. 1/4, got that. 1/2, now I don't see 1/2 on this number line, but we know that 2/4 simplified is 1/2. So that's our second marking. And then 1 and 1/4 is the third one we needed to do. So I'm going to cross those off because I did them all. All right, so now I'm going to erase the other marks I made to help me. And now I have my 3 left that I needed to place, all right? So I hope that this review was helpful for you. Remember, you can rewind, pause, and go over this as many times as you need to, and you can always ask me questions as well, all right? Good luck.